Welcome to As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton, and it's our 2023 recap episode. I'll be going over my top 10 favorite EPs / singles of the year, as well as my top 20 favorite full-length records, as well as just talk about the podcast. If you are a subscriber on the mailing list, my favorite EPs, the full list of 30, went out 2 weeks ago, and on Friday, my top favorite 50 full lengths will go out on the mailing list. Patreon members got albums 100 through 51, which is bananas all around. So we are recapping this year, but first I got to give some shout outs right at the top, because even though I do so much of the work on this podcast by myself, there's so many incredible people that help make the show happen. Tim, Shane, Rachel over at Adam Splitter PR, constantly sending me bands. I probably talk to Tim and Shane almost more than anybody. Those dudes are constantly sending me bands, hooking me up, and it's amazing to work with such a great group of people who just continue to help this podcast flourish and grow and help me talk to amazing artists, and it's been a delight to work with them. Also got to give a shout out to David and John at Freeman Promotions. Freeman Promotions really stepped up this year. David is new on that team. I worked alongside him a lot this year. They worked with Napalm Records. They connected me with Napalm Records. Napalm Records really helped the show on YouTube a lot. We gained a bigger YouTube following with the Napalm bands in the metal community on YouTube, which is so wild and so amazing. And I'm super stoked to be working with John and David and the whole team at Freeman. They have so many amazing bands that I've been able to chat with, and just an incredible group of people over there. This is why in 2023, As the Story Grows, at one point went to 3 podcasts a week. At one point, I think it was around August, I thought, oh man, I'm about to run out of podcasts. And then we went to 3 podcasts a week. And there's not been a shortage, and we're hitting the ground running, because in 2024, I have probably about a dozen interviews already recorded, lined up ready to go in January. So we will hit the ground running next year. Super stoked. Also, I have to give a shout out to the people who support this podcast emotionally, and just like people I talk to all the time. My wife, Amanda, she doesn't listen to the podcast, but she knows this is what I'm passionate about, and that I love music, and she's always hanging out and down for me recording sometimes at night, and just being there for me as we podcast. Casey at Iodine Records, he sends me bands all the time. Casey's just a super dope dude, and Iodine is doing amazing things. Casey's a great human being. I said it a few weeks ago. Casey and Iodine rule. Seth Werkheiser from Social Media Escape Plan, just a constant encouragement to just keep going, to do your own thing, to create your own art, and not worry about what other people say, and not worry about posting to socials and trying to impress an algorithm, but to build your fan base. So huge shout out to Seth, and Dan Terry from DFT's Dungeon, who I talk to all the time, who's just a fellow podcaster, great emotional support. And then we got Ben Pike on the Patreon, helping fund this show. Thank you so much, Ben. So if you've made it through all my thank yous, thank you for listening. If you are not a subscriber yet, please subscribe to the podcast on your podcast platform of choice. A lot of people subscribed on Spotify this year. We had a lot of growth on Spotify. A lot of people coming over on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. We did over 100 podcasts in 2023, and who knows? We might do more next year. We're already hitting the ground running in January, and there will be 2 episodes a week to start January. So you will not want to miss an episode once the interviews come back in the new year. You can also, like I said, join the mailing list, which is currently on Substack, asthestorygrows.substack.com, and you'll be able to see the full list of my favorite 50 LPs. There's always behind the scenes information on various interviews I've done, and that's a great place to get involved. You can join us on Discord. Discord is our community. It's a message board. We hang out, we share music, we share concert photos, we talk about the latest Star Wars TV shows, we talk about the podcast, we talk about other things in life. We've been talking about the Dillinger Escape Plan, Calculating Infinity 20th anniversary shows. Just doing a lot of fun stuff over on Discord. Come hang out, be a part of the community. Last but not least, you can support the show financially on Patreon. $1 a month gets you early access to every single episode that we record. And if you go above and beyond, the next tier is $3 a month. You get the After Dark podcast. You get mosh mixes, other fun goodies. And if you sign up on Patreon, I will say your name on the podcast. How cool is that? You can always leave a comment. I read comments on the podcast when they happen. Love reading comments. And share an episode with your friend group and community. The best way to tell people you like something is to share it. And that's the way things grow organically. That's the way things have always grown. And social media doesn't make things bigger. You telling your friends about something makes things bigger and widens the reach. So thank you so much for listening to my podcast spiel. Let's talk about albums I love this year. I'm just going to do a short rundown of EPs, only do the top 10, and I'm only going to do the top 20 for full lengths. I could talk about these albums all day long, but like I said, if you're on the mailing list, or you can go to Substack and read the post, I have posted all 30 of my favorite EPs, and I'll be posting all 50 of my favorite full lengths, so you can get the full lists there. This is just a brief rundown of what I listened to. I listened to at least 482 releases this year. That's insane. My process is when I listen to an album, I take a song from that album, I give it a rating, and I dump it into iTunes, Apple Music. Is it called Apple Music now? Put it into a playlist, and I have my rating systems. So I know what I listen to, and I can go back at the end of the year and narrow that list down. For EPs, I only had about 40 EPs I listened to this year, which seems like a low number. Let's get into the top 10. At number 10, we got Scowl with Psychic Dance Routine. No spirits in my dreams. No psychic dance routine. Scowl, one of the big up-and-coming bands in the hardcore scene. This record came out on Flat Spot Records, and just an incredible EP, very diverse. The title track is just a beautiful, like, weird new wave pop song in the midst of this hardcore record. Scowl's doing some really interesting things. Kat Moss is a killer vocalist, and this is just an incredible EP that stood out to me. In at number 9, I got Forked Tongue. Their EP is called The Fragility of Progress. This is just a punch you in the face, old school sounding hardcore record. Just absolutely love it. In at 8, I got the Yashira and Horsewhip split EP that came out on Zigma Beach Records. Zigma Beach released a bunch of EPs that I love this year. And if you like screamo, if you like emo violence, if you like grindcore, if you like fast, loud, emotional, hardcore music, go find Zigma Beach on Bandcamp. So many of their albums are name your own price. And this Yashira split features what is possibly at the moment the final Yashira song. It's called Burial Mound. It's killer. And it features a track from Horsewhip, which is on the Horsewhip LP, which was also on my full length list, although I think that's in 51 through 100. But both bands are incredible. Love them both. In at number 7, we got Mood Ring with Your Light Fades Away. This EP really leans on the Deftones worship side. I thought as much as the band's full length last year sounded a lot like Deftones, I thought Mood Ring was carving their own lane. Your Light Fades Away is definitely heavier. It's definitely hits harder. And it definitely gives you Deftones, White Pony, Diamond Eyes vibes. If you like that, you'll love Mood Rings Your Light Fades Away. In at number 6, Better Lovers, God Made Me an Animal. Metalcore supergroup. We got Greg from Dillinger Escape Plan. We got guys from Every Time I Die. We have Will Putney creating chaotic metalcore, mathcore. It's a little shocking this release wasn't higher because it is so good. And even part of me thought oh, I don't know if this Better Lovers EP is as good as everybody hyped it up to be. But I just kept listening to it and I was like, no, it's really good. I love it. Next up is a band called City of Lost. Their EP is called Wasteland Guide 5. This is just post-rock. This is a band I found on Bandcamp, and I've been a fan of theirs. If you like bands like Explosions in the Sky and Signal Hill and Caspian, you'll like City of Lost. In at number 4, I have Olhava, Russian black gaze band. They released a single called Eternal Fire. They have a new album coming out in 2024. I'm a huge fan of Olhava. They were on my best LPs list last year. I just love black gaze. It speaks to me. I love the emotion and melody with the heart-wrenching black metal. And Olhava does it better than almost anybody right now. In at number 3, Knocked Loose, Deep in the Willow, Everything is Quiet Now. I guess the official title is Upon Loss, which is fine, but at the time, it was just Deep in the Willow, Everything is Quiet. Knocked Loose played Coachella, one of the biggest metal bands in the world. I don't think people knew what they were going to get from Knocked Loose, and they dropped these 2 singles, and they just punched you in the face. 2 of just the nastiest breakdowns of the year. Just a phenomenal 2-song single release from Knocked Loose, and I am stoked for whatever they have next year. In at number 2, the return of Texas in July with Without Reason. I love Texas in July. They only put out 1 record with JT before they split, but I love the record they did with JT. I love Texas in July before JT joined the band, and Without Reason is phenomenal. It's a great return. There's nothing not to like about this. And then at number 1, Spiritbox, The Fear of Fear.
I feel alone in my body. I feel a silence underneath. In these valleys of blood, in these rivers of rust.
I think if I had done a combined list, Spiritbox might have been number 1 overall. Although it's tough to say because what is high up on my list on my favorite LPs is stuff that was my favorite records all year long. But I mean, Spiritbox, when they dropped Jaded, I've been obsessed with that guitar riff since that song came out. That EP didn't leave my phone. It was constant rotation. Listened to it so many times over a month. Just a phenomenal song. Mike writes the most insane guitar riffs I've ever heard. He is on another level right now. And then Courtney's vocals, whether she's singing, whether she's screaming, just kills everybody. One of the biggest bands in the metal scene right now. They deserve all the praise and all the credit they're getting. And I love Spiritbox. The Fear of Fear was a great EP and it was number 1. So now we shift into full lengths. As I said, on Friday, all 50 full lengths will be up on Substack. And if you sign up for the mailing list, that will hit your inbox at 9 a.m. Friday morning, or you can just saunter over Substack asthestorygrows.substack.com whenever you feel like it and check out the whole list. But we are just diving into the top 20. I can't go through all 50. I had 159 full lengths that I tagged with 5 stars that I had to re-listen to before I could put my list together. And I decided just to do 50 this year, but there's so many good records that came out. And so I wanted to share with Patreon members 100 through 51, because why not? I can do whatever I want. And looking at this list, I mentioned Horsewhip. The Horsewhip LP came in at 91, Consume and Burn. So a little sneak peek for you. Kicking us off at number 20, my 20 favorite full length is Shoegaze Legends Slowdive with Everything Is Alive. I was kind of late to this record. I forgot it came out, and then I saw it on somebody else's list, and I was like, oh yeah, Slowdive. Downloaded it, absolutely fell in love. The record is beautiful. The guitar tones on this record bring me so much joy. Like, I love My Bloody Valentine, but Slowdive is the guitar tone and texture that I'm still trying to chase. And Slowdive's an incredible band. I didn't care so much for their last record. It was okay, but it didn't move me in kind of the same way Souvlaki did. But Everything Is Alive, I think, is the best thing they've ever put out. And it comes in at number 20. In at number 19, Periphery with Periphery 5. Gent is not a genre. I had never listened to Periphery until this record. It was actually sent to me as a promo, and I hoped to have Periphery on the podcast. It just didn't work out. But I was blown away by the record. Wildfire is just a bonkers opening track. Just a band I'd never heard, and a band I fell in love with on this record. And I was obsessed with this record. I played it a ton. It probably could have gone higher, but you know, also it's 19 out of 159 records I gave 5 stars to. So that's pretty good. In at number 18, These Beasts with Cares, Wills, Want. This is a record that came to me from Freeman Promotion. And it reminded me of Kylesa and Tombs and Mastodon from, 15 years ago. And just that doomy stoner post-metal vibe. And I loved that when I first heard Kylesa and I was first hearing Tombs, Winter Hours, and Torch. And These Beasts transported me back to that time. And I fell in love with this record. I got to interview the guys in that band. You can find that on asthestorygrows.com or in your podcast archives. Incredibly super sweet dudes from Chicago who just put out an absolute beater of an album. In at number 17, Falaise. I think it's Falaise, Falaise. Their record is called After All This Time. It's atmospheric black metal, black gaze, post black metal. This is a band I found on Bandcamp in January and fell in love with their record, and it's a gorgeous record. Like I said, I love black gaze. I love atmospheric black metal. I love reverb and screaming. It works for me. So that's at number 17. In at number 16, Within Temptation with their record Bleed Out. I'd never heard of Within Temptation. There's a record that came across my inbox. And when I first heard We Go to War, I was blown away. I did not expect anything from this record. I just kind of put it on the background, expecting to just like listen to it and move on. But it blew me away. Just a phenomenal band.
And when we hear the call, we go to war.
And listening to this record, I find out they're like this long-running symphonic metal band. Sharon's vocals are killer on this record, and I'm excited to eventually, at some point, hopefully dive into the band's back catalog, because this record blew me away, and I was so stoked to hear it. And, you know, one of the things I love about this podcast is getting to discover new bands, and sometimes it's getting to discover bands for the first time and realizing they have a lot of music for me to consume, and Within Temptation is one of those bands. And if you haven't listened to Bleed Out, I highly recommend it. It's great. In at number 15, Veil of Maya with Mother, another band who I know is like a big-ish name in the metalcore scene. I've never listened to Veil of Maya though, but I knew I wanted to check out Mother when they dropped it, and don't regret it at all. Such a killer record. So good. In at number 14, I have Loma Prieta with their record Last. I love Screamo. It's weird that the Loma record is above the Jerome's Dream record, because that's farther down the list. But I think Loma captures the emo, ambient, reverbed outside more than Jerome's Dream. And while I like the chaos, I like the pretty with the chaos. That's just my bent with Screamo, is I like the pretty with the chaos. It's why Hopes Fall is one of my favorite bands, and why Frailty of Words and Satellite Years and No Wings to Speak of are still super high records I listen to all the time, because I like the melodic side with the screaming and the emotion. And Loma Prieta delivers on Last. In at 13, Cattle Decapitation with Terrasite. This record blew me away when it first came out, and it's still blowing me away to this day. Every time I listen to it, I'm like, oh yeah, this record is really good. I forget about it. And I like, even putting together my list, I was like, I don't think Cattle Decap is going to be that high. And I was like, oh no, this record is legit so good. In at number 12, Death Ray Vision with No Mercy from Electric Eye.
Beyond the king, for only sorrow can embrace. Suffer the bastards, those who claim to serve no master. Time for the reckoning, oblivion is beckoning. Surrender priest, we're doing time in the valley.
This is a side project of Mike from Killswitch Engage. Just an absolutely dope hardcore record. I was not aware of this band until I got to interview Mike, and just blown away by this record. It's a record I've come back to often. I think it's the best Death Ray Vision record yet. And yeah, you should check it out if you haven't. In at number 11, we have End with their record, The Sin of Human Frailty. What can you say about End? It's chaotic, it's loud, it's angry, it's mean. Their Bandcamp page is called Your Fucking End. Like, Will Putney with Brendan from Counterparts just write the craziest, sickest songs. This is no different than anything else that the band has done previously. Like, this is by far the craziest work they've ever done. Will said they wanted to go crazier on this album, and I love it. I love it. And just continues to impress with each and every new release. In at 10, Conquer Divide with Slow Burn. I heard the singles from Slow Burn, and I interviewed the band, and I was a big fan, but I didn't get to hear the record before the interview. So when I finally got the record and got to hear the record, I was blown away by how good it was. Like, I enjoyed the singles, but hearing the record as a whole was just took everything to another level. Super catchy choruses, great screams, incredibly just like catchy metalcore that's not afraid to push the rock limits. I think that's what I'd say about this record. All-female metalcore band, which is amazing. Yeah, the ladies just crushed it on Slow Burn. If you haven't listened to the record yet, go check it out. In at number 9, Polaris' Fatalism. This release was just filled with heartache with the passing of Ryan. I know the band didn't do a lot of promo because it was tough. You're excited to release this record, and then your guitar player passes away. That sucks. But the band had written the record. They had filmed all the videos with Ryan, so you see Ryan in the videos. Polaris is just a band like on this other level of metalcore, stepping up, stepping out. And Fatalism is a phenomenal record. In at 8, we have indigenous black metal band Blackbraid with Blackbraid 2. This record is heavy. It's super dope. I have nothing bad to say about it. Like, Blackbraid is a killer band. I stumbled across them on Bandcamp. I know a lot of people in the subsequent last 2 years have been hyped on Blackbraid. In at number 7, Rebuilder with local support. Look, I got to have Sal on the podcast. Casey told me about Rebuilder. And this record kind of grew on me. Like, I like the opening track, but the more I listened to this record, the more I loved it. It hits on that saves the day kind of punk emo vibe. That it's nostalgia, but refreshing. It doesn't feel like nostalgia, but it makes you feel that same feeling of discovering saves the day through being cool for the first time. And yeah, local support is phenomenal. There's not a lot of punk rock records on my list, but this was the best one I heard all year. In at number 6, Melancholia, Book of Ruination. This album came out on Brutal Panda Records. If you like fast, if you like chaotic, if you like crunchy guitars, this is a record to check out. Phenomenal record. I've really been drawn a lot to the chaotic, crunchy records this year. Big, beefy guitar riffs, chaotic drums. All of that has spoken to me this year for some reason. And it's influenced the way I play guitar. I've gotten really into fuzz pedals. And in at number 5, I have Initiate with Cerebral Circus. Norman Bannon on Antimatter interviewed Crystal from Initiate. That turned me on to the band. I went and found their record on Bandcamp and was instantly blown away by the band. Crystal's vocal delivery is so emotional and like immediate and feverish. Like, you can tell she has something to say. Just a killer hardcore record. It's got great melody to it as well. Like, the musicianship is top notch. This is a phenomenal band, and I expect big things coming from them in the future if they keep going. I think this is the first step on a much bigger path for this band. Keeping it hardcore at number 4, Incendiary with Change the Way You Think About Pain. This record, one of those records that just stuck with me all year ever since I heard it. Echo of Nothing is, I love that song so much. The hook at the end, every window deserves a brick. I mean, I just keep coming back to it. It's a great hardcore record. I love political hardcore. I love standing up, saying we're not going to take it anymore. Shit is messed up and we have to do something. And Incendiary does it really well. In at number 3, we have Svalbard with The Weight of the Mask. I discovered this band probably in 2021, and I've been obsessed ever since. I saw they signed with Nuclear Blast. I was so stoked. They dropped the single for Eternal Spirits, and it absolutely blew me away. I knew the band was going to drop an album that just was on the top of my list. I mean, When I Die, Will I Get Better from 2020 was such a phenomenal record and in constant rotation. And The Weight of the Mask, if it's got that black gazy screamo emo violence elements to it, without really falling into any of those tropes and genres. Just great melodic metal. A great record. In at number 2, I've Holding Absence with the Noble Art of Self-Destruction.
You've watched me love, you've watched me lose. Now watch me writhe on the floor. Is this what therapy's for? Catch my guts as I talk. You've watched me win, you've watched me lose. Help me recover my corpse. Is this what therapy's for? Catch my guts as I talk. My head's been a prison.
Holding Absence was a band I discovered last year because of the podcast when they dropped their split with Alpha Wolf. Greatest mistake of my life. Such a killer record, and the Noble Art of Self-Destruction ups the level. I just love big hooky pop songs, and this is pop music in a post-hardcore shell, and it's great. And then number 1, my favorite record of the year, the record I've listened to more than any other record, the record that when this artist was on the podcast, I said, this is my favorite record I've heard so far this year, and that has not changed all year. It is Event Animate with Heavener. I got to see the band live. I got to take photos and experience these songs live. I've gotten to come back to this record so many times. Shade Astray, my favorite song of the year, without a doubt. This album, it's just a perfect record, in my opinion. Great hooks. It's heavy. The screams are awesome. Everything about this record works for me, and it's worked for me since release day up until now. And it is my favorite record of 2023. So there you have it, my favorite EPs, my favorite full lengths of 2023. It's an absolute joy to do this podcast each and every week, multiple times a week. It's been an insane year, not because it's been crazy or bad. It's been insanely good. There have been weeks where I've had, 5, 6, 7 interviews in a 4 or 5 day span. It's been crazy. We went to 3 podcasts a week for a good chunk of the end of the year because I had talked to so many bands, and because I have the ability to talk to bands. If I hear something I like, I don't feel this pressure to be like, no, I don't want to listen to that. Sometimes I feel like the music podcasting world can be a little, it's like a musical circle jerk. It's a lot of, these are my friends. These are the people I know. A lot of podcasts only want the big artists. They only want the new artists. They only want the flashy artists. I love discovering new music, and I love sharing new music. And I tried the record label, and that didn't really work. And I had a radio show for a long time, and that didn't really take off. And being able to use this podcast to say, hey, I really like this band that nobody's ever heard of, and I think people who listen to this podcast would like it and get to share is amazing. We've gotten to share bands across so many different genres this year, and it's a phenomenal joy to do this podcast. And I looked forward to a whole another year of interviewing bands, sharing new music, sharing new records, and discovering my favorite band and your new favorite band together. So thank you so much for listening to As the Story Grows in 2023, to each and every episode. I appreciate it. If you listen to a handful, if you listen to all, if you listen to most, if you listen to one, if this is one of two, I appreciate you tuning in and making As the Story Grows a part of your life. I hope everyone has a great weekend and a great close to 2023. I will see you in 2024. Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.
I never felt so young and alive as when I'm diving into a tune. And now I'm learning as I listen along, and the wheels are turning, and I started a song. One good word and I'm gone. Oh, as the story grows, the more I want to know, the more I want to show you. As the story grows, as the story grows. You can create something lasting and great, something passionate and real. And I'll bring in my own good feelings, I'll sing it with meaning. Let's just attack it and never look back. It's wild and fantastic. All together at full power, we're so much better.